Okay, everyone, welcome to our A plus session for the day. We are going to be keying in on the 902 for today for the simple fact that this exam is almost expired. And if there's anyone that is working on this, I want to make sure I get any concerns or questions answered prior to this expiring. For those of you that don't know, for those of you that are listening on replay, if you don't know this, if you do have your 901 cert, you did pass the 901 exam, but you haven't passed the 902 yet. You have until the end of July to pass the 902, or you're going to have to start over with the 1001. You're not going to be able to get certified with a 901 and a 1002 exam pass. So very important that if you don't understand that, you understand that now. If you are studying for the 901, I would strongly consider, just taking the 1001 instead. And that way you don't have to worry about that clock. So, okay. Any particular questions anyone that is working on that 902 has, I will gladly answer. Just ask them. For now, I don't see any, so I'll just kind of do a little general take of how to get ready for this exam and some advice, and then we'll answer questions after that. Okay, if you're not working on A plus, you don't need to attend the session. You can just leave your name in the chat box, and I'll give you credit for attending. There's no problem there. Okay. All right. So 902. Quite simply put, if you're comparing this exam with the first exam, the 901 is hardware heavy. It focuses mostly on the physical components and connectors and cords and drive, things like that, right? Your RAM, your CPU, all that type of stuff. Okay, this exam is the opposite of that. You're keying in on your operating system. So you're talking about the software aspect of things, right? Operating systems, you get your introduction into security, okay, but it doesn't go into depth. So it's minor stuff when it comes to security, okay? And then obviously software troubleshooting, it's going to be a big one on this exam as well. So between these three, really, the main thing here is your Windows operating systems. It's going to be the big thing. When it comes to others, you were just talking about your Linux, right? So Linux, basic operating system features and things like that. There's nothing advanced here. Okay, so and then obviously Mac, right? Your Mac and Linux. So some people have experience with Mac, some people with Linux, some people don't have any. If you don't have any experience with any of these, don't get too discouraged or anything, because there's not a lot here. Just do your best to kind of pick up on the stuff that is here, just simple stuff. And like I said, it doesn't go much past that. For this exam, what I would highly recommend for anyone is, get as comfortable with these operating systems as you can. And there's different ways to do that. Obviously, one would be virtual machines. If you have the RAM to do that, I would highly recommend installing some virtual machines, these operating systems, so you can spend some time, going through them, getting comfortable with them. More importantly, the differences between these. Okay, for the 1002, I know we're talking mainly about the 902 today. For the 1002, the main difference here is you're going to do away with Vista and you're going to add Windows 10. So it'll be Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and 10, which I personally like a lot better than Vista. I never liked Vista at all when it came out. And it didn't, Windows 7 came really quick after Vista. Vista was active for about like a year and a half or something before it was replaced. No one really liked it. It had a lot of bugs that people weren't able to adjust to. So, yeah, let me come back up here real quick. Your Windows operating system is going to be your main focus, probably, followed by your software troubleshooting and your security. Okay, these, even though they're included in operating systems, like I said, you're not going to see much when it comes to Linux and Macs. Probably a few questions on the exam, but you definitely want to do your homework on this section. Make sure that you're prepared for whatever you can see here. But the main areas where you're going to see when you're taking this exam, obviously, is going to be Windows operating systems and then your software troubleshooting and security. Command lines, Stephen, that's just kind of a repetition thing. If you know what they do, what they're for, and you should be fine. The main thing is just making sure you know which command lines are for Windows and which ones are for Linux, right? Your Linux ones are down here, and then you have a couple that kind of look the same. That's something that you'll see in the Windows ones, right? You'll see ipconfig, and then you'll see ifconfig. Actually, ipconfig is probably going to be down a little bit lower. But so command line, when it comes to command line, group them. Okay, find the ones that you know are for Windows, right? Like your basic ones, your ping, your traceroute, your let me find them. Your netstat, right? Your ipconfig, that type of stuff, right? You're going to see those in Windows, and then you got your other ones that you're going to see primarily in Linux. So if you can group them, if you know which ones would go with which operating system, that's definitely a start, because it'll allow you to eliminate the ones that don't fit, right? If they're asking you a Linux question and you see Windows ones in there, you can pretty much throw those out, right? And vice versa, right? If they're talking about, let's say that they're asking you, which command would you use if you are trying to, you're trying to see if a device is up, is reachable, which command line tool would you use in Windows, right? So if you see anything on Linux in there, you can throw those out. So start with grouping and being able to identify, okay, which one of these belongs here, and which one belongs over here. And then, once you get them grouped, obviously, start to identify, okay, what are each one of these going to do? What is taskkill going to do for me, right? What is xcopy going to do? What is robocopy going to do? What's the difference between xcopy and robocopy, right? This part, what does that do, right? Why would you use system file checker, right? It's not enough to just know that this is SFC, right? You have to be able to spell it out and know what it is, because they could give you this or they could spell it out for you, but more than likely they're going to give you the acronym. So, right, check this. So when it comes to command line, that's really what it's about, is just understanding. It's like a tool, right? Each one does a different thing, and if you got a toolbox, there's if you're hanging up pictures, you're going to pull out the hammer, right? If you're trying to, if you're trying to change some batteries and something, there's, you're probably going to use a screwdriver, so you can pull out the screws. You know what I mean? So you want to kind of think of command line like that. Like, each one is a tool. They do different things, and if you know what you're going to use it for, then you should be good. It can't trick you. You know what I mean? If they're asking you about, you think you have some corrupt files or something, right? There's only one of these that's gonna search for those and fix it. So it's just about understanding, what is gonna do what. When am I gonna use which one, right? And if you can understand that, the command line, it shouldn't be too difficult for you, okay? Because most of the time, You're not going to be doing this. They're going to give you a scenario, and then you're going to have multiple choice. So it's just about process of elimination. If you're not sure what it is, then you just say, okay, well, I'm not going to be checking files with Xcopy. I'm not going to be checking files with format, right? I'm not going to be checking files with bootrec, so it's probably SFC, right? That's what I find myself doing a lot when I'm taking the exams. If I don't know what the answer is right off the bat, and it's just process of elimination after that, right? It's like, and that's the good thing about multiple choice. It's, just give you that option. You're only going to get a couple performance-based questions, so most of them don't ask you to do command line stuff. So, okay. Let's see what else here. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the security, because I know that that kind of throws people off. This is security plus stuff, okay, but it's the basics of it. It's just like when you're taking the 901 or the 1001, you're going to see networking there, but it's not going to be advanced networking. They're not going to have you subnetting and configuring default. They're not going to have you configuring static routes on devices and things like that. It's more about just kind of getting the idea, getting an introduction to this stuff, so that when you get to it, you have the foundation already, and then you can build from there. Because a lot of this stuff does tie in. So you get your introduction to networking in the first A+ exam, and then you get your introduction to security in the second one. And here you can see it's just kind of identify, right, compare and contrast. So it's really about knowing the characteristics of this stuff, right? So for 3.1, if you know the difference between a virus and a worm, and difference between a worm and a Trojan, and so on, you'll be good here. Social engineering, they don't hit you with all of them. It's just, there's a few of them here. Make sure you know what these are. For most of these, the definition kind of spells out what it is. You know what I mean? Shoulder surfing kind of, you know what shoulder surfing is, right? It's standing over someone's shoulder and and watching and seeing what they're doing, right? Seeing if you can pick up a password or something like that, right? Brute forcing, right? It's just trying to guess someone's password. Right? Dictionary attacks. It kind of speaks for itself, right? You're using terms in the dictionary to try to to cause problems, right? Tailgating, it's the same thing. So, a lot of this stuff is just it's about being able to identify these and not much more at this point, right? You're going to go a step further when you get to Security Plus, obviously, if you have it on your timeline. But, here, same thing, right? It's just about common prevention stuff like locking doors, right? Locking doors, a man trap. I don't know how many of you have ever seen these, but these are common in pawn shops where I grew up, right? I grew up in the hood, so you go to a pawn shop and you'll have a man trap, which is, you go in one door and they have to buzz you to get in the next one, right? To avoid people running in and running out. So you'll see stuff like that. You'll still see stuff like that at banks. I have a bank. It's a Navy Federal bank, actually close to where I grew up, and there is a man trap there. Okay, it's considered a bad neighborhood, so there's a man trap there. And you'll see those from time to time. All right, cable locks, right? When you have like loose laptops or things like that. So you can see this is just kind of, it's just basic stuff. There's no encryption here or anything like that. It's just kind of, what are the simple stuff you do to make things a little bit more secure, right? So the security here, it shouldn't throw you off too much. It's just kind of, like best practices and things like that, right? Passwords, how to get strong passwords and things like that. So it's nothing to get overly apprehensive about. It's just about doing your homework on the stuff that's here, okay? But you are going to see a decent amount of this on the exam. It's up in the 20s, so you definitely want to make sure that you do your homework on the stuff that's unfamiliar to you, right? Some of the stuff is common is common sense. Um, some of this stuff you may not know what it is, so just make sure you do your homework on stuff like key fobs and things like that if you don't know what it is. Okay. Let's see what else. Secure Soho, right? This you want to definitely, if you're moving on past A plus, you want to make sure you definitely do your homework here. You're going to see this stuff later, and you're going to see it in more depth. Okay, so make sure, especially if you have Net Plus coming up after A plus, which most of us do. You want to make sure that you start to get an understanding for this year because you're going to see it. You're going to see it again. Okay. Software troubleshooting. All right, so this is the area where most people are going to get thrown off troubleshooting. Every exam is just, I don't know what it is. CompTIA has a way of wording their questions. It's kind of irritating. It's hard to know exactly what they're getting at. A lot of the times, so you have to look for the keywords in the questions, and they are there. Trust me. I just took an exam last week, I believe, or the week before, and I saw a lot of keywords. So, and I had to go back, and sometimes I have to read the question a few times and then, find the keyword. Oh, okay, there it is. Right. But they're there, okay? So just make sure when you're troubleshooting, I mentioned this before, the first thing you want to do is you want to try to find out where you are in the troubleshooting process. And the keyword a lot of the times will give you an idea. Okay, the best example I can give you is they say first. If first is bolded or all caps or something like that, more than likely you're at the beginning of the troubleshooting process. You're still information gathering. You're still trying to figure things out. Okay. If they say next, more than likely, you're probably somewhere in the middle. You've already tried a couple things, which should eliminate some of the answers. Okay. I can't stress this enough. You have to figure out where you are because they will throw answers at you that are like all right, and it just depends on which stage of the troubleshooting process you are in. It's going to give away what answer they're looking for. Okay, if you don't identify that, you're going to be confused. So just be prepared for that. Okay, you're going to see it. Clinton, yeah, I just saw that. That message there. It's pretty funny. Okay. All right. So troubleshooting. The best advice I could give you here is practice. Find somewhere to practice this stuff because troubleshooting is not something that can really be understood by explaining. It's more of a feeling out type of thing. At least it is when I'm troubleshooting. When I get a call to tech support and someone's telling me what's wrong, in my head I'm already eliminating things. Right? I'm trying to find out what I can eliminate, right? Just by listening. And some people give you a lot of information. Some people give you more than you need. Some people don't give you enough. So it's important to know how to probe as well. But, it's like I said, it's a filling out thing. The more you do it, the better you get at it. It's not something that you just kind of pick up. So that's why I say, especially with this exam, it's good to download virtual machines if you can, because you can go in there and break things on purpose and without having to worry. Break things on purpose and practice fixing them without having to worry about doing any damage to your personal resources. You know what I mean? So virtual machines is a must. If you have the RAM, I highly recommend doing it. Okay. So let's see here. Your common symptoms, obviously, some of this stuff, a lot of us have seen already. Some of the stuff we haven't. So it's important to try to supplement the stuff that you haven't seen. And that's where like I said before, that's where the virtual machines come in handy. A lot of this stuff you can practice doing in a safe environment, which is cool. So you certify is good for that. because it does have some virtual machines there if you don't have the RAM. So let me show you what I mean. Okay, I have a decent amount of RAM. I don't have a lot of RAM, but I have enough to run some guest operating systems. So I use VMware. Some people use VirtualBox. A lot of people use VirtualBox actually. This is just the first one that I tried out. I did actually use VirtualBox for a little while before the old system I had crashed. And then when I got this one, I just went back to VMware. But you can see here, I have a few virtual machines that'll help me for the 902 or the 1002. I'm actually going to be taking the 1002. But so you can see here is a version of Ubuntu, right? This is a Linux, a common Linux OS, right? So I can actually go in here and get some practice playing around with Linux, which I will do. I have a Windows 7, a VMware edition, right? So this is specifically made for VMware, okay? I don't think this is going to be a full version. And then you can see here I have an 8.1 as well, right? And obviously the operating system that I have in the background here is going to be Windows 10. So when it comes to the 1002, and I don't even think I have that. Actually, I do have that up. No, I have the 1001 up. Okay. But let me pull it up real quick. All right, so when I come to the 1002, and I scroll down here and I look at the operating systems that I'm going to be responsible for, right? And this is the same thing you should do depending on which exam you're taking. You can see here it's going to be Windows 7, Windows 8, 8.1, and 10. All right, these are the main Windows operating systems that I'm going to need to be familiar with. Okay, so when it comes to the virtual machines that I have available to me, I should be good here because I'm running Windows 10, and then I have the other ones here. Okay, not much difference between 8 and 8.1. Very little difference. I had 8 before I had 8.1. There are some minor differences, but for the most part, these are pretty identical. And then I have Linux here. Only thing I'm missing is a Mac. Right? I don't have a Mac. So when it comes to the, right here, I'm going to be, I'm going to have to supplement this somehow. But I have Linux covered. I have all of these covered. I have an iOS device, right? I have access to an Android device as well, right? So it's about making sure that you have access to this stuff, so you can do your homework on it, especially for this exam. Okay, if you don't have the RAM, okay, let me show you what I mean, because we all know that with virtualization we are sharing resources, right? So even though I have different operating systems, we have to share the resources. Right now, I'm running high on memory. I don't know why. I'm going to have to look into that and figure out what's going on. I shouldn't be running this high. But I am. So if I try to turn on my VM right now, it probably wouldn't work. I need more memory than this. I only have a gig free. So the only one that would probably work if I turn it on right now, I have close to 2 gigs, but is Linux. Let me come back. Right? Because if I come down here, I can see Linux is going to use, I need a gig of RAM to use this. So I'll have very little left once I start running this if I turn this on. This one right here is going to take 2 gigs. It's not going to work unless I figure out what's going on with my memory here. Okay, so even though I have these different operating systems, I'm sharing the resources. And that's why you need the RAM. This is definitely not going to work, right? I need 4 gigs for this to run right, to run smooth. So I'm not running any virtual machines right now. What you can do is, that's where UCertify comes in handy. It's probably the best tool for, or best used for this particular exam, because it does give you access to virtual machines. So let me come to, I don't know how to stuff that in here. I'm going to go to use certified. By the way, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them. I'm just kind of babbling right now. Is it free to run? Yes, it is free. I can show you where to download those. Actually, no, it's not free. Like I said, it takes memory, right? So, if you have enough resources, then you're fine. But if you don't, then that's what it's going to cost you. It's going to cost you resources. So, are you certified? Let me log in here real quick and just give you guys an idea. For those of you that don't have the RAM, and what I mean by enough RAM, you probably need about 8 gigs. If you have 8 gigs of RAM, then you should have enough to run a guest operating system. Okay. So 902, 901, and 902. Okay. All right. So if you come in here to use Certify, obviously this is a resource that's provided through LearnKey. So this isn't something that you're gonna have to go out and purchase on your own or anything like that. You see that this is kind of a hands-on tool, right, for you to kind of apply your knowledge and the things that you've been learning. Okay, so the thing that I want you to notice here is you have these different icons, right? These different icons give you an indication of the type of lab that you're going to be doing, right? So this one right here is kind of choose order, right? So this is something for like maybe the troubleshooting steps, right? You'd have to put them in order or something like that. Right, this little box with a circle around it is like a hands-on tool. It'll give you like some hardware, and you'll have to physically put it in. Like this one is just putting in the CD, right? So you click on the thing pops out, and you put the CD in. I didn't reset it, but right. Okay, so this is a good tool, especially if you don't have the hardware to practice stuff like this. Okay. So these different icons give you an idea of what you're working on. When you see this Windows icon, this is actually a virtual machine. Okay, so this is a version of Windows 8 right here. This is a version of Windows 8. All these are Windows 8. There should be some Windows 7. This one's Windows 7. Okay, so I click on it, and you'll see it loads up a version of Windows 7. Okay, once you get in here, it operates kind of like a virtual machine. I'm not sure where it caps you, but you're not using your own resources for these. Okay, so if you don't have so you can go into the command line here, and then you can start, doing stuff. So I think I can run like an IP config and see what's going on. See what kind of information I'll give you. All right. So let's see how this works. All right. Maybe I can run a ping to ping Google. And you see it works. Right. So this is a place where you can come in here and you can practice some stuff and not worry about messing up the machine or anything like that. Right. You can run SFC. Okay, so it looks like you can't do this in this one. It's not implemented in our simulator. So it does cap you in some places. There's some things that you can do and some things that you can't. But it's good to have this. Okay, because you can go into the control panel, right? Which is one of the things that you definitely need to know. You need to know the differences between the control panels and the different operating systems and some of the names and the features and things like that. So this would be a good place to practice stuff like this as well, and other utilities and other tools. Okay, so all right, the VM is free, but the OS, don't you need a key? Well, if you're trying to install an actual operating system, yeah, you're gonna need a key, which you can absolutely do. Or you can just go to a site that's gonna allow you to download them, right? So if you go look at my VM, excuse me. Excuse me. So my VMs, you can see these are actual. These didn't cost me a thing, right? I just downloaded them from a site, downloaded the ISOs, right? Excuse me. So yeah, if you're trying to install actual operating system, so let's say that you have a version of Windows 8 sitting at home somewhere on CD. If you try to install your VM that way, yeah, you're going to need your key because you're installing the actual operating system. This is just a VM version of these operating systems, right? And this isn't an actual, it's not an actual version. It's just enough for me to use, to use these. But so, give me a second here. I'll find a site for you where you can go to download these. Some of these. Okay. So if you come here, you can download virtual machines for free, right from Microsoft. Okay. So I'll put that in the chat box for you. Anyone that's interested, just make sure if you don't enable virtualization on your processor, it won't work. You won't be able to do it. So just make sure that you do that. It's disabled by default. So if you haven't done it, then you have to do it. If you're not sure if you've done it or not, just go to your task manager, go to your processor, and then come down here and look, see if it's enabled or not. Other thing, make sure you have the RAM, at least 8 gigs. 8 gigs isn't enough for me right now because I'm running high on memory, so I need to figure out what's going on. I'll take a look at it once this session is over. But okay, any particular questions about the 902? Anything that I didn't cover that anyone has any questions about? Nope. Okay. Any questions about the 901? I'm sorry, the 1001. If I can get enough RAM to VPNs, what would you suggest? If you can get enough RAM to VPNs, do you mean virtual machine? What do you mean? I'm not quite sure. VPN is not a memory thing. VPN is more of it's a protection thing. I have so VPN that I use at home on my devices, on like my Fire Sticks, my mobile devices. I use IPVanish. Okay, and I can use that on multiple devices. And basically, you're just making sure that you're keeping your network private, right? So if anyone is out there spoofing or trying to get information, they're not going to be able to do it. But that's not a RAM thing. For virtual, like to run the virtual. Okay, so oh, you're saying if you can't get enough RAM for virtual, what do you? Okay, yeah. Okay, so if you can't get enough RAM, let's say that you only have 4 gigs, right, which is probably it's not enough to run a guest operating system. In that case, yeah, I would use something like uCertify, because if you are working on the the second A plus exam, whatever it is, 902, 1002, like I said, these virtual machines, they don't use your resources, so you can use these. Right, you don't need 8 gigs of RAM. You don't need to have a bunch of RAM and disk space and stuff to run these. These are hosted by uCertify. Whatever server they're hosting these on, you're using their resources. So that's what I would recommend if you don't have the RAM or the resources to use virtual machines, then use someone else's virtual machines. Right. The reason I say to use your own is because it's good to get experience in downloading virtual machines, installing them. If you haven't done it before, you should try it. But when it comes to resources, if you don't have the resources, then just use these. These are provided for you anyway. So, and I mean, the other thing about using your own is you can get a full version where you're not going to be capped on what you can do. So if you have enough RAM, you can install virtual machines inside virtual machines. You can go as far as your resources will take you when it comes to those. You literally can. But it's a good place for testing. And that's the other thing, for testing, for practicing, like breaking stuff and practicing fixing it. That's really where you get your knowledge when it comes to troubleshooting. That's where you get your feels for stuff, and when something's not working right and how to fix it, and it's experience. You guys can listen to me talk all day, but it's not going to help you much when it comes to fixing stuff or knowing when something's wrong, or knowing what to do when something's wrong, what not to do. Right? Don't freak out. If your internet goes out, don't go replace your router. There's steps that you can do before that because your internet's not working. Right? So that's really what it's about. Here, like I said, you're only going to get Windows 8 and Windows 7, but most of you, hopefully, if you're in our program now, you're running Windows 10. So the only one that you would really be missing is 8.1. I don't know if they have any 8.1s in here. Most of these, let me see, it has like a Metro interface. Right, and then when I click down here, it'll go. It has the Windows 7 interface, and then when you click down here, it goes to the Metro interface, right, to Windows 8. And then a good sign if you're using 8 or 8.1. If I just start typing, if I go to the control panel and I start typing, then it should have come up, and it didn't, right? So I have to come over here. Right. And I have to do my search over here. And then I have to type control panel to get it to come up. All right. Because before you could just start typing and it'll come up. That's what it's supposed to do in 8.1 anyways. But let's see. If you don't have enough RAM to run virtual machines, what can you do to get that access other than uCertify? Other than uCertify, I don't know. If you're talking about running virtual machines, you have two options. Okay, you're either running virtual machines or you're running a what is it called? A multi-boot system. And what that does is you have multiple operating systems on your hard drive, and when you boot, you choose which operating system to boot into. But if you do that, you only have access to whatever operating system you choose to boot into. It's not like having a virtual machine where I can run multiple operating systems at the same time. Okay, so with virtualization, as long as you have the RAM, you can run multiple operating systems at the same time, right? This is Windows 7, oh no, this is Windows 8 right here, and I have Windows 10 running in the background, right? So this is multiple operating systems. If you're talking about multi-boot, you have multiple operating systems, but you can only run one at a time, and you choose when you're booting the system. Does that make sense? That's another option, multi-boot. But, virtualization is better. And if you don't have the RAM, see if your vocal rehab counselor will get it for you. Say, hey, I want to run some virtual machines. I need some extra RAM. I need about 4 more gigs of RAM. Most of your PCs that you guys get today should come with at least 8 gigs. So if you got one from us, you should have enough RAM. If you got one from us recently, I don't know, it's depending on how long you've been in the program. But I think the ones that we're sending out now have at least 8 gigs, so you should have enough. It's just about going and downloading them. Use Certify would be the other option. And there's other options too. They have, I don't know if anyone remembers those practice labs that we were using for a while. Those were using virtual equipment as well. It was a little harder to navigate through those. But there are, Professor Mercer has some too. He has some labs that'll give you access to like virtual equipment and operating systems and things like that. But, if you're trying to, if you don't want to spend money, then just use the ones that we have. You can either use Certify, or if you have the RAM, just download the VMs and then install them that way. I mean, you don't have to spend any extra money or anything like that. What's a free, decent VPN resource to use? See, when it comes to security, I don't like free because, you guys I'm pretty sure you've all heard the term "you get what you pay for," but when it comes to security, you can't be too cautious. So, like I said, the one that I use is IPVanish. It's a year subscription. I think it's like $60 a year or something like that. I don't mind that. I can spend more than that at dinner if I take enough people with me. So, it's better to have peace of mind. But pretty much the same though. Yeah, Clinton 8 and 8.1 are going to be pretty much the same. Not much difference there. Okay. Free. If it's free, it's free for a reason. Yeah. In most cases, you're right. Free, and some things I don't mind. Sometimes I'm looking for free, but there's a few things that I don't mind paying for. Okay, brakes. Okay, brakes and rotors, I don't mind paying for it. It makes me feel safe if my brakes and my rotors are good. Okay, I was in a car accident a long time ago, and it was because of my brakes. Security. I do not mind paying for it. I would much rather pay for something than use a free version that's going to leave holes in things. So, yeah, I agree. IPVanish is really good. You can use it on multiple machines. You can use it on multiple devices. You can use it on your phone, all that stuff. So, yeah, when it comes to VPN, that's something I want to play with. Excuse me. There's a few of them. Like there's Nord. Nord is another good one. I'm not sure if it's free. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's not free. If it's a good one, it's not free. I'll just I'll put it like that. But they don't break the bank either. A lot of the times you can save money by just doing like a yearly subscription as opposed to monthly. And my recommendation, I recommend IP Vanish. I use it and it works fine. So, okay, looks like we're out of time here. So, Clear is saying that Norton gets hacked often. So that's probably what you want to stay away from. Definitely. Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll go ahead and end this. This was pretty much a A+ version 2 session here. Just talking about what to expect on the second exam. Okay, with A+, you guys are kind of lucky because preparing for one is kind of the same as preparing for the other. If you put the objectives up side by side, they're pretty identical. So, if anyone was preparing for the 901 and you feel like you want to switch over to the 1001, you're not making a huge jump there. It's just there's a lot of the concepts are really the same. So it's just about looking for the stuff that's new and utilize test taking strategies. It helps. It really helps. Some of the things that I do is I skip past the first few performance-based questions. I don't even really look at those. I just go past them. I know they're going to take me more than a minute or two. So I just get past them. I go into the multiple choice. I gain my momentum there. If I know the answer, I mark it and I move on. If I'm on the fence about an answer, I pick the one that my gut is telling me to pick and I flag it so I can come back if I have time. Okay? If I don't know the answer at all, I use process of elimination and look for what I know it's not. Okay? If I know it's not this one, I know it's not that one. If I have to guess, at least it's going to be between 2, right, instead of 4. So, okay. And then the other thing, don't sit there and stare at any questions. You're going to see a few of them that are like left field and they have you like, what the hell or whatever. Don't stare at it, just flag it, come back to it later. Keep yourself going, keep your momentum going, don't get stuck anywhere. And then if you have time, then just come back at the end. Okay. Okay, I think I've taken enough of you guys' time today. If there are no more questions, I'll go ahead and cut this loose. I'll have this posted in a day or two, so if you guys want to review it again, you can. And thanks for attending. Great session.